Hello, fellow seekers. I'm Paula Gill, psychic medium. We're going to be doing a channeled reading tonight. So you'll notice me working with pen and paper. I'm going to be bringing forward information from the angels, the guides, and the higher beings of light. There'll be pockets of silence throughout this reading as I bring the information forward and then communicate it. And Spirit will be communicating messages for individuals. The information will come in the form of the person's a letter that their name starts with, either their first name or last. I don't know who these individuals are. I have to trust that Spirit will know that these individuals will come into contact with this information at the time that is most beneficial for them. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, the first letter that I'm getting here is a letter C. So again, this will be for a first name that starts with the letter C or a last name that starts with the letter C. Okay, and the first part of the message starts with a being patient with those around you, in particular siblings. So those of you who have a first name that starts with a letter C or last name that starts with a letter C, there's a message here around patience, in particular with those around you and your siblings. Okay, just 1 minute as I take note here. Okay, so those around you, in particular these siblings, there's a sense of anxiousness around some sudden changes or some changes that are fairly significant in their lives, and they're struggling to adapt to these changes, and they're essentially acting out. You're going to notice that they're snapping. They may be unresponsive, perhaps what you would consider overly emotional, and not being rational in how they're approaching conversations and situations. It's really important to understand here that they're not doing this because they're trying to be difficult or that they're angry with you in particular. They're just struggling to cope with these changes that are going on in their lives. And obviously these changes are likely affecting you, but you may not necessarily be conscious of the fact that you're going through this, and there's individuals around you are going through this, and you may not understand that everybody's dealing with the ramifications of the emotional impact of what's going on here. So even though it's important that they also have some patience with you, we're reading for you and not necessarily them per se. So it's important that you take this message to heart and lead by example. All right, the next letter we've got coming forward is S. This is for individuals whose name starts with the letter S, or first name or last name. Okay, so just let's see what Spirit has to say here. Okay, just 1 minute as I take note of what's coming forward here. So they're talking about they're drawing my attention to a car, a vehicle of some sort, and this idea of transportation. I actually feel like I have someone in spirit here. So this would be a loved one associated with this person who starts with the letter S, first name or last. So this is going to be a more specific message for this individual. So let's just get a little bit more information about the spirit that's stepping forward here. All right, the spirit's the name. So when I get names, I don't get the literal name. So a literal name being, Bob or Joe, and that's the actual name of the individual that's crossed over. That has happened to me occasionally, but it's rare. More often than not, I get a name that's an example, a phonetic example of the name of the person who's in spirit. So for in this case, I'm hearing the name Mary. So the individual who's in spirit, the person that's crossed over here, is going to have a name that sounds like or rhymes with Mary, like a Larry, Harry, Jerry, Barry. You get the idea. So whoever it is that's picking up on this message, your first name starts with letter S or last name starts with letter S. Think about someone who's crossed over for you, whose name rhymes or sounds like Mary, or Arry. Okay, so let's just see if we can get a little bit more information on this spirit that's stepping forward here. All right, I feel like they passed away tragically in a vehicle. Okay, so this would be a vehicle that they were in or a vehicle that struck them. Okay, so there was some kind of tragic accident associated with a vehicle here. I feel like they were either trapped or pinned down or somehow restrained as a consequence of this accident. And it feels somewhat suffocating because I'm feeling some pressure and tension in my chest. So I feel like something's pinning me down here. I feel like they're passing, they were found on the verge of passing. They hadn't quite passed when they were found. Or, you know, the emergency responders may have thought they had passed, but there was still a spark of life. But I feel like once they were found and the process of retrieving them out of the accident situation, they passed at that point. So they were already passed away by the time they would have arrived at the hospital or en route to the hospital, okay? I feel like despite what feels like a very stressful and anxious death, the way we would interpret it, sorry for the dogs barking in the background, I got two big ones, when they were in this situation where they were in this accident and pinned, I feel like there was a sense of calm that eventually came over them, okay, and essentially making peace with their fate. There was a moment there where they understood that they were going to cross over and this was the end of their physical life and they were going to be transitioning. And they made peace with this before they passed, okay, and I think this is really the key part of the message for this individual receiving it, this first name letter S or last name letter S. This loved one that's crossed over, they made peace with their passing. And they want you to know that despite the description of the passing and what you heard about this passing and it sounding extremely painful and tragic and stressful and anxious, that there was a sense of calm and a sense of acceptance that happened as they were transitioning to the other side. Okay, so we're going to close tonight. We've got these two messages, one for the individual or individuals whose first name starts with letter C or last name starts with letter C, and then for this individual whose first name starts with letter S and last name starts with letter S. And again, apologies for the dogs barking in the background, but you can't change the realities of life. Thank you again, fellow seekers, for spending this time with me tonight. We'll continue to do these readings over time. Please feel free to leave some comments. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments section and I will try to answer them as quickly as possible, or as many as I can. Thank you.